recall back in the good old days, back in the times of yore, the ancient olden relic times, a lot of folks were heralding the coming of Eustass Kid. Kid was going to revolutionize the One Piece game. A lot of folks blasting the Kid trumpet like it was Gabriel, man. Gabriel's trumpet was blowing and that was Eustass Kid. Oh, 2021. Rooftop. Oh, woohoo! Let's roll through real quick. But before we get on with the video at hand, a brief word from today's sponsor. You know the drill. Saddle up.
Saddle up, Seabiscuit.
Because today's sponsor is none other than Surfshark VPN, the one and the only. Surfshark VPN is a very high quality VPN service available in many countries across the world. At this point in time, over 3,200 plus servers. Whether it's a laptop, iPad, desktop, doesn't really matter. You can utilize Surfshark VPN on all your devices. And it doesn't matter if it's an iOS, if it's Windows, if it's Linux, Android, it doesn't matter. Surfshark VPN will protect your online privacy. This is a very important thing. It has very dope assets like the clean web feature that protects your device from any malware or any trackers while you're online. But also has very awesome identity hiding features to where even your ISP won't be able to actually know who you are. And an added bonus to this VPN is the fact that it's located outside of the Five Eyes. Another layer of protection and privacy the other VPN just cannot give you. Finally, if you've noticed, some of my videos are in fact region gated, but you can easily use Surfshark VPN to gain access to that region gated content on my channel, as well as, for example, Netflix or Hulu, HBO Go, whatever you got. With Surfshark VPN, you can gain access to all that region gated content. So go in the description box down below, you use code KOL, that is KOL, and you're gonna get 83% off, as well as 3 months free if you go in the box below and use code KOL. So on that note, thank you Surfshark VPN for being awesome. And now, let's get back to the video. Please! Before even Wano Country itself, high expectations for Eustass Kid. Not only in terms of power, but also in terms of character. Many folks thought that Kid was just as strong or stronger than Luffy. Yes, there were so many folks that, of course, we all know, back in the pre-time skip, Kid had a higher bounty. Kid was stronger than Luffy. Now, I've always said, given the words of Shaki, that kind of offsets the stuff between Kid and Luffy back in the pre-time skip, but I digress. Folks from back then said that Kid was stronger than Luffy. Even after Luffy's 2 years of training with Rayleigh, Mayo, Kid was still stronger than Luffy. How could that be? Haki blooms. Oh, almost like Dragon Ball Zenkai boost. Haki blooms. And the assumption was that Kid, over the course of his New World journey, would have several tremendous Haki blooms. And as a result, despite Luffy training for 2 years, Kid's growth in the New World would rival that of Luffy's own growth. And for Kid's character, because Oda had said in the past that he had actually intended for Kid to be the, I guess, prima supernova, but instead it was Law who got a lot of love in Dressrosa and has been basically honorary Straw Hat from Punk Hazard to Dressrosa to Zoe to now. He's been honorary Straw Hat, honest to goodness. And a lot of folks expected that Kid would have something equivalent to that given Oda's words. But now we fast forward to real time. Now we get to reality. And reality is very, very far from. In terms of power, it is as clear as day. It is as clear as crystal. Kid is not on Luffy's level. There's a significant gap. At this point in time, yes. A significant gap between Eustass Kid and Monkey D. Luffy. Luffy had the Rio Haki training and figuring out the true usage of Conqueror's Haki, applying it to one's attacks. And then, before the fight even starts on the rooftop, Kid had to gather a lot of metal in the castle before arriving to the rooftop. So without that condition of all that metal in a castle like Onigashima, Kid is coming into that fight even more at his advantage if that metal is not accessible. And no Haki blooms. The people that earnestly believed that Kid would have tremendous Haki blooms, and I can understand why, obviously, given how even Kid was known to have conquered Haki by Kaido. Luffy and Kid were in a cell together, and we both want to take out Kaido. And Kid is running around carrying blocks like Luffy, but Kid has one hand, Luffy has both hands. So I can understand why a lot of folks are still on the whole bandwagon of Kid equals Luffy. And yes, Kid has Haki Bloom, but when he had to gather all the metal in the castle, it became a little bit suspicious about, Kid's Haki level.
Really makes you think.
And lo and behold, not on Luffy's level. Now with Conqueror's Haki, now with Observation Haki, now with Armor Haki. Matter of fact, it seems to me that from the very beginning of the post-time skip, from Jump, Luffy always had superior Haki than Kid. In fact, Kid to this day is still a predominant Dove Fruit-oriented fighter. And then when the fight actually happens on the rooftop, well, we all know, Kid not really looking that great. Kid is probably the last in terms of impact on Kaido. Keeping it a buck. Even on Big Mom, you can argue. Last. And even though it sounds crazy, Killer, his right-hand man, you can argue easily had a better showcase than Kid did on Kaido. Whereas Kid did throw Kaido's giant body, and Kaido's absolutely huge, gargantuan in size, Killer actually bypassed Kaido's scales using some kind of sound frequency blade thing. So I do lean more towards Killer than Kid in terms of what they showcased against Kaido. And in terms of character for the arc so far, the only stuff he's gotten so far that's been pretty solid is the Prisoner of Mind stuff with him and Killer. That was pretty solid. Yeah, absolutely. But to the same level of someone like Law? Oh, not even close. Like, Law is an ocean, and Kid's not even a pond. He's a bucket full of water. In terms of his character, compared to Law, it's not even remotely close. Kid has a long way to go when it comes to his character. There was a good chance for this to expand with his crew, because they were captured, and then so maybe his entire crew was in deep trouble, given the Orochi stuff with Killer, and then the Smile Double Fruits and so on. But no, they get saved off screen. So that kind of the opportunity went out the window. And even more so, as of late, Kid, despite his hatred towards Kaido, and arguably speaking, the person that has the most onus to take down Kaido, considering what happened to his own right-hand man, Killer, Kid decides to opt out to face against Kaido, leaves it to Zoro, Luffy, and Law, and then him and Killer go and take on Big Mom. Or stall out Big Mom.
No.
That was
Trash.
It doesn't jive or add up with Kid's intentions prior to the rooftop for him to then focus on Big Mom. It really doesn't at all, not in the slightest. So this is the sad reality of Eustass Captain Kid at this point in time. However, a lot of folks are being very hopeful for the future. And one of the things is that a lot of folks are expecting now for Kid to take down Big Mom.
Shot.
Some people going as far as to say that he's going to do it solo.
Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for.
Not solo leveling, solo. Kid, Big Mom, one-on-one. Just how Luffy was like it's Kaido, one-on-one. And of course, Killer against Hawkins and so on and so forth. However, recently, our good old boy Monkey D got baby shaked, throttled again. and my theory became correct. Yay me. After even a Conqueror Haki power-up, Luffy could not defeat Kaido. Kaido and Big Mom are relatively equal in terms of power. Big Mom is slightly under Kaido, I would argue. Luffy is absolutely over Kid in terms of power, without question. So, clearly, I have massive doubts, huge, global in scale doubts that Kid is gonna defeat Big Mom, let alone solo.
Boy, that's count. Boy, that's count. Boy, that's count. Boy, that's count.
I have my doubts. Okay. Now, one of the things folks are saying is that Kid counters Big Mom. But keep in mind this, though. In chapter 1011, Kid himself even states that he can't let her, Big Mom, team up with Kaido, thereby implying that Kid himself is aware that he cannot defeat Big Mom. He understands that. And maybe, let's be generous. Let's be biblically generous, man. Like, I'm putting $1,000 in the basket in church. Generous, okay? Maybe Kid goes through a hockey bloom like Luffy. After all, Kid and Luffy both have Conqueror's Haki.
True, and yeah, that's pretty true. That's true, and yeah, that's true.
So maybe Kid has a hockey bloom like that. And like what folks have said for so many times about Kid in the past, it actually happens. He has a hockey bloom. But again, I'm putting $1,000 in the church basket. That's being very generous towards Kid. Maybe an awakening, considering how Kid is clearly so much more focused on his devil fruit application. Maybe it's going to be an awakening rather than a Conqueror's Haki bloom thing. Potentially. But again, I'm being very generous here. We have to rely on this idea that Kid, if these things aren't the case in the future, then we have to rely on the idea that Kid can counter Big Mom. And my argument to that is, well, who hasn't? It seems to me like a lot of people in this arc can counter Big Mom, and mainly Prometheus, Hera, and Napoleon. And yet Big Mom is still devastating. And yet no one can really stop Big Mom. All they can do is just stall her. And I get the feeling that Kid's gonna fall in the same camp, no matter what he does or anyone that teams up with him does, I would argue. Now for character, I'm waiting on the Kid flashback. Where is this? Where is this fabled Kid flashback? I'm waiting. Because listen, this arc is so jam-packed, full of different things going on, with so many characters do X, Y, and Z and the other. There's a good chance that Kid won't get that much character stuff in this arc, which means that if Oda doesn't plan for Kid's character, like big plans for Kid's character, then this could happen after this arc. After this arc. And some folks theorize, go as far as say that he's gonna team up with Blackbeard in some capacity to take down Shanks, because Shanks was Kid and his alliance's original target, to take down Shanks. Let's see what the future holds. Let's just see. Okay? And also, for Kid's character, I guess what matters too is it depends on how much credit he gets if Kaido is defeating this arc. Meaning, if he shares the credit with Luffy, like for example, in Dressrosa, Luffy and Law shared the credit equally when it came to the downfall of Doflamingo, which is why each of their bounties was 500 million at that point in time. But Kid could wind up being like Capone in Whole Cake Island, one of Luffy's soldiers. Like Luffy led the charge. Luffy and the Strikers, they led the pack. And the Kid pirates were just part of that pack. So it depends on what Oda has plans for the future of Kid. But character for a Kid in this arc, I'm not seeing it be that robust at all. I'm really, really not. At the end of the day, after hearing so many things year after year about Kid from my Twitch chat, from the YouTube comment section, from Twitter, from fellow YouTube content creators, and so on, I think it's safe to say that at this point in time, Kid has fallen very short of a lot of folks' expectations. Now, maybe sooner rather than later, Oil's gonna turn this around for Kid. Maybe. But until then, this is, once again, the sad reality of Eustass Captain Kid. I still want Kid to lift that giant sword on Onigashima. I still do. But until then, I'm gonna see y'all later. You guys take care and have a nice one.